The last head coaching decision that I want to talk about is the lack thereof. In Tampa Bay, with 2 weeks remaining in the season, there was a lot of chatter about how the Buccaneers are going to fire Todd Bowles if they miss the playoffs. And that was really dumb at the time because, he already cost you the first Falcons game, right? You had the ball in field goal range with less than 2 minutes left and a lead. How do you lose that game? Terrible clock management. But then he also probably lost you the Chiefs game when Baker Mayfield led you down the field to tie the game and you decided, no. I know we have one of the very worst defenses in the entire NFL, but we're just going to play for the tie and see if we can win in overtime. Get the fucking 2-point conversion and walk off the field as winners. But anyhow, Todd Bowles costs you a few other games, including the Dallas game. And you're on the verge of missing the playoffs in an easy division with a top 5 offense. Your defense is terrible, but I thought that's what Todd Bowles was there for. Well, I guess he doesn't really affect the outcome too much. Or maybe he's the problem. Who's to say? But either way, defense is bad, and that's his job. Offense is good, and that's not his job. Clock management's bad, that's his job. A lot of fingers pointing at Todd Bowles. But hey, 2 games left in the season. If we make the playoffs, we keep Todd Bowles. If we miss the playoffs, we'll fire him. Promote Liam Coen. That was what everybody agreed was the plan in Tampa. But the issue is it's fucking stupid logic. On one hand, making the playoffs is good. But on the other hand, the only thing separating you from the playoffs is the Falcons losing games because you already blew you don't control your own destiny due to losses to the Falcons, both of which shouldn't have happened if Todd Bowles was competent. So why should Todd Bowles keep his job because Atlanta is worse than we thought they'd be? Why should he keep his job because another team failed? Why should he lose his job because Atlanta performs well? Maybe, theoretically, Michael Penix comes off... Penix, not Penix. Come on. Maybe Penix comes off the bench and he's awesome, and the Falcons torch the Commanders, and the Panthers are being jerks, so they tank in Week 18 and let the Falcons win. Now, the Falcons are making the playoffs instead of the Bucs. Why is that Todd Bowles' fault? That's not Todd Bowles' fault. They should have just decided right then and there, we're firing Todd Bowles and promoting Liam Coen. Because Todd Bowles has put us in a situation where we have underachieved to the extent that we have a chance of missing the playoffs. This is a 13-14 win football team, and Todd Bowles has taken wins off the table. His job is to call the defense. The defense stinks. Manage the clock. We manage the clock poorly. Decide whether to kick or go for it on 4th down. He always kicks. He's very conservative. And therefore, there's no real upside to keeping Todd Bowles. The best argument you could make is that Todd Bowles keeps on hiring good offensive coordinators, but he's really only 2 out of 3 at best. Byron Leftwich was terrible. They replaced him with Canales, and he was fine. And they replaced him with Coen, and he was good. You flip a coin 5 times. You could get 5 heads in a row, but do you think it's going to be heads a 6th time? I don't. You're due for regression to the mean. It's kind of a bad example. It's like quite literally a mathematical fallacy, but it doesn't matter. The point is, there's only so many good offensive minds out there, and I don't know how Todd Bowles thinks he's going to keep on finding them. So by failing to promote Liam Coen, you alienate him and push him over to Jacksonville, and now you're stuck with Todd Bowles. I think I made an entire video about Liam Coen in Jacksonville, and I think he'll be a good head coach. Not great, but good. And if Liam Coen had stayed in Tampa, you could just promote Todd Bowles' proteges as defensive coordinators. Or you could, keep the same general staff together and hire your own defensive coordinator to be their new boss. You could really do anything, and Liam Coen would have a much better infrastructure, a team he's familiar with, a quarterback who fits his system and has great relationship with him. it would be a better fit. Liam Coen would be a better head coach in Tampa than he will be in Jacksonville, I believe. But even in the absence of that, why do you want Todd Bowles? He's a bad coach. His defenses are bad. And his defense doesn't make sense on a fundamental level to me. It's all predicated on disguised and long developing blitzes, which take a while to develop, but they have a high success rate, right? Like when the blitz has enough time to get off, it almost always works, but it takes a while to get off. It's like winding up for a punch. Big wind up. When it connects, it's hard hitting. But then the coverage that he plays is all very soft zone defense. And the idea behind soft zone defense is like, yeah, the short stuff, the stuff in the middle of the field, it's all really easy for you to throw. And we have to try to come up and tackle or else you get yards after the catch. But you're not going to be able to beat us deep. How the fuck does that make sense? Because to me, if you're having a blitz that needs 3 seconds to work, but it will work, you want to make sure you're covering really well for the first 3 seconds. And that's the short stuff. So shouldn't Todd Bowles be doing his same blitzing with press coverage and taking the risk that he might get beaten deep and using his all-pro safety, Antoine Winfield, on the back end to clean that stuff up and help out? That's not what Todd Bowles does. So fundamentally, I don't think that he's a good defensive coordinator on philosophy alone. And I don't think the results have been better than the philosophy. Yeah, I mean, people are going to remember the year that the Buccaneers defense went crazy and they won the Super Bowl. But A, you still had Tom Brady. And B, the defense was bad all season leading up to the playoffs. It's just the blitzes worked in the playoffs. In some part because Patrick Mahomes couldn't handle the blitz. In some part because the Chiefs' offensive line was decimated. In some part because you played Taylor Heineke. In some part because Aaron Rodgers shat himself. Like, in some part because you played the ghost of Drew Brees. Like, is that really something to hang your hat on 5 years later? I don't think so. And then the other problem is now you're turning to Josh Grizzard as your new offensive coordinator. Baker Mayfield's 9th offensive coordinator in 8 years. And yeah, Grizzard was their third down coordinator last year, and lots of Bucs fans like to pretend that he called the plays on third down. That's just not how it works. It's just not how it works. Because if that were the case, then the run game coordinator would be calling the runs on first down, and that means that Liam Coen is only calling plays on second down, and that's just not how the fuck it works. I would bet you a lot of money that Josh Grizzard was installing third down plays or designing third down plays or helping curate third down plays for Liam Coen to then call on game day. But he was not it wasn't, all right, hey, Grizz, it's 3rd and 8. What play do you want to call after I called the first 2 plays? It doesn't even make any sense. There would be no cohesion, no sequencing. It's illogical. Josh Grizzard is a Yale man. He's played football. He's been in football for most of his life. Those are all impressive. Those are all, inspiring. But when he was with the Dolphins, he was originally a quality control coach under Flores. And they kept him around under Mike McDaniel. He was a quality, and they promoted him up to wide receivers coach. They knocked him down to quality control coach. So this guy got demoted by Mike McDaniel, who's a smart coach, a year before joining the Buccaneers. And he got demoted for Wes Welker, who has since been fired. That's concerning. This is a guy who kind of lucked into his job, right? He got promoted after being fired. That's usually not a great sign. That's usually odd. And he really only got promoted because Liam Coen had no connections throughout the league because he changes teams every single year and never really builds up a nice pool of goodwill and friends that he can call upon. So he's kind of like a desperation hire. I don't know about this. To go from quality control coach to a year and a half later being an offensive coordinator that calls plays, It's kind of crazy. It's a gigantic leap for a guy who I'd say is certainly unproven. And now Josh Grizzard could end up being really great. He could be anything. We have no idea what he'll be. In a year's time, we could be saying, yeah, it makes sense that he was fired and demoted to quality control. Guy sucks. Or we could be saying, yeah, makes sense. He went to Yale. He's brilliant. Turns out he's still brilliant. Any outcome is possible. But why take the risk when you know with Liam Coen, you have a top 5 offense. And if Chris Godwin plays the whole year, you might have a top 1 offense. Why take the risk? You found something that really, really worked, that everybody in the league wanted. And you did it with a quarterback that you're paying a third as much as you should. Half as much as you should. Like, it's never going to be a better opportunity. Buccaneers really squandered something. They could have been a legitimate contender. And that's the problem I have with it. So yeah, you can say like, oh, the Buccaneers didn't hire anybody. They chose to keep Todd Bowles. They could have fired him. They wanted to fire him, and then they pussied out. They could have chose, like when Liam Coen pulled the whole like, I secretly snuck over to Jacksonville and I think I'm going to take the job. They could have been like, hold on. What about if we give you our job? What if you take the Tampa job? We move Todd Bowles out, right? When they gave him that contract that said like, you're the highest paid offensive coordinator in the league. What if they said, do you need to be the head coach here? Because we'll do it. Todd Bowles will go and be a GM's assistant. He's in his 60s. It'll look like a normal-ish retirement. Nobody will care. And it'll be your team. Liam Coen would have stayed. And the Buccaneers would have been a lot better of a football team. Because who knows? You bring in a defensive coordinator, he could suck just as bad as Todd Bowles, but it'd be really, really hard to be worse. And it'd be really easy to be better. You might have the 15th ranked defense with the number 1 ranked offense, and suddenly you're playing in San Francisco next year, or Santa Clara in February. Huge, huge opportunity cost. And there's a chance the Buccaneers actually got worse as a coaching staff than they were last year, because we have no idea what this Josh Grizzard's going to be. That's all I got. I have now broken down every single coaching hire in the NFL this offseason, why I think they're good or why I think they're bad, and everything in between. It is way too much talking, and I am going to make 2 videos. This is going to be a separate video, and there's also going to be a full video with all of them inside of it. I'm done talking about coaches now for at least the next couple months while I prepare for the draft. And in the meantime, I'll be grinding college film. Hasta.